Welcome to the Lounge with Travefy Academy, where we get to hear from travel industry voices and experts to learn more about their story and also what they see on the horizon for travel professionals. And I'm Stephanie Grice, and our guest today is Stephanie Louzil and Danielle Meyer. And so welcome to the Lounge, Stephanie and Danielle. This is so exciting.
Yay. Thank you for having us.
Thank you. We're so excited.
I know. I'm super pumped because, as I was mentioning even before this, is just when I discovered the concept of the brand Travel Virtually, I was like, oh my gosh, this is so smart. And it's just, and we'll talk about it, but during, out of that COVID, that thing that happened, but it's also still like, I don't see something like this going away at all. And it's just really awesome. So I know we'll talk about that, but before we dive into the conversation today is just, can you both just introduce yourselves and just share how you got in the travel industry and really how Travel Virtually just came to be?
Yes, definitely. Well, I will start. So first, before I introduce myself, just as a bit of background on Travel Virtually, it is a division of Coastline Travel, which is a virtuoso travel agency. So we'll get into how that all started shortly. But my name is Stephanie. I'm the director of group sales for Coastline Travel and Travel Virtually. I've been with the agency for about 7.5 years, which is crazy. Previously worked on the hospitality side. So I have a few years, working at a hotel. Transitioned over to booking travel, originally started with leisure, quickly kind of jumped into group travel. So right now I do a lot of corporate incentive and small leisure groups. But yeah, I love it.
It's awesome.
Yeah. And my name is Danielle Meyer. So I started at Coastline back in 2018. So I've been here about 3.5 years. I manage our group sales department. So I work with Stephanie often, but I also do leisure sales. So I'm also a travel agent just on the leisure sales side. So do a little bit of both. And I got into the industry. So after college, I moved to Spain and worked there for a year. And so when I came back to California, I just knew that I had to have a job in the travel industry. So as someone looking for a new job, I Googled jobs in travel and Coastline Travel popped up. And I reached out and said, hey, I'm interested. My boss was like, okay, great. Come on in. You can learn the industry. And I've been here ever since.
That's so cool. I feel like that's a story for so many people is that once you get into the travel industry, you're like, this is the best. It's so great.
It is awesome. And then you get people that are like, they're still travel agents. Like, you still exist.
I know it is. We get it all the time. Like I'm ready for it. I'm so ready for like that statement because I'm like, oh, here we go. Let me tell you, there's so much. And then you have all these, different unique pieces like Travel Virtually is one of them. I mean, just so many different things that's going on in the travel industry. That's super cool. And on Travel Virtually, so how did it come to be? Like, were you already doing some of it and then you decided, hey, let's just make this its own thing? Or what did that look like?
Yeah. So, as we kind of mentioned, Travel Virtually is a subdivision of Coastline Travel, and it really was a byproduct of the pandemic. And to give you a little more background on Coastline Travel, it's obviously primarily a leisure agency, but we do quite a bit of group business as well. And when the pandemic hit, all of our corporate groups canceled their upcoming trips, which is pretty similar throughout the whole industry. We had a lot of leisure cancellations as well, but kind of as a means to continue to be engaged with our corporate clients through the pandemic. We just tried to find a way to still work with them, even though we knew like they probably were not going to be able to travel again for probably years. And some of those even they're still, which we'll get to a little later, they're still not traveling quite as often. But so we kind of started Travel Virtually again to kind of stay engaged with our clients while also staying engaged with our global partners who we likewise probably would not be working with for a couple of years until we were able to send clients to their destinations. And so we really just transitioned from booking actual travel to virtual travel. And the way that we did that is we worked with a lot of our global partners that we already had relationships with booking corporate and leisure travel. And we started creating these virtual experiences for our clients that were hosted from those actual destinations. So obviously with the pandemic came a lot of companies kind of doing a lot of different virtual events, virtual cocktail making, cooking classes, etc. We did a lot of those same events and others, but we utilized our global partners so that each event is actually hosted from that destination. So, for example, we worked quite a bit with like a winery in Tuscany who helped us with wine tasting events as well as cooking classes. We were able to get their wine from their winery. They, fortunately for us, had a warehouse in the US. And so we were able to ship all the participants wine from that winery. And then the actual event was hosted live from Italy. So yeah, we really just try to create as authentic experiences as possible so that we're really bringing the destination to our clients in a time when they're not really able to travel to the destination.
Yeah, that is so cool. Oh my gosh. I need to tell TravFire team after this and be like, I have an idea for a future thing that we could do as a team. Wine tasting.
Yeah.
I love it.
Always a winner.
I know, it's so cool. And who would be like the virtual traveler? So a lot of like corporate companies, but did you have like single travelers as well, or like families or couples?
Yeah, so I would say majority of our clients are corporate. It's a lot of team building and fun, but we definitely do have families that, want to do a fun event together. I mean, even during COVID, a lot of families started that, and just some individuals or couples that, especially during COVID, missed that travel aspect and was just super interested. And also, it's a much cheaper way to travel than buying the plane ticket, going to the destination. So I would still say majority is mostly corporate, but then sometimes we'll have, someone that is on a team and then they reach out to us individually and they're like, hey, we want to set this up for our family. So it kind of ranges, but definitely, and we'll talk about this later, but we've kind of pushed that into now our clients who are physically traveling. But yeah, mostly it's our corporate groups.
Yeah, that's really cool. Well, and that's what I was thinking too, because it does make sense, with corporate side. But I almost was thinking like, is this working? Because since travel it's expensive right now, makes sense why. But it is almost a really cool alternative to offer or add on to something like, well, we could do this right now, or adding, or, as that kind of, have you been doing that? Like kind of almost adding it on, or doing like, well, how about we do this now and then that later?
Yeah, definitely. So we originally, again, like we were saying, during COVID, it was just all of these events and it was just kind of straightforward, right? And I think now we have branched out into combining it because Coastline Travel is a luxury travel agency. We've been now crossing our virtual trips with our physical trips, right? So we have people, and we've used this also in regards to, sales with our clients, there's a couple different ways in which we've been able to combine them. One is to set up like an introduction to a destination. So if we have clients that are wanting to travel, but are nervous, have like never been to a certain country, or just like feeling nerves. Like I had clients the other day that really wanted to go to Africa for their family group, but their grandparents especially were really nervous. Like, we don't really know anything about it. And so I was looking to send them to a specific lodge in Zambia. And so I said, you know what, we can do a virtual event together. You can kind of talk to someone who lives in Zambia, things like that. And then it gets them excited. They can ask as many questions as they want to ask. And they feel like special and trusted because we're talking with someone that's from that destination. So that's just one example of how we've done that. We've also added it as almost like a client amenity. So say, I have a couple going to Italy for their honeymoon, and as like an added factor, and I've set up an Aperol Spritz tasting class or Aperol Spritz making class a week before their honeymoon. So now they're excited, like it's a little memento. We send them the box and things like that. So it's kind of like an added piece instead of just sending your client, like, here's a book about Italy, like have fun. It's like, here is an experience to really excite you for your destination.
That is so cool. That's really awesome. It's just such a cool add-on experience and adding more value. And I know, Stephanie, I remember when we were talking one time that you were mentioning like even one that I think it was in Africa where they were doing like a craft and you get all the stuff and send it. Like and that's what I love because it's connecting people, you know, very easily, which is cool.
Yeah, definitely.
It's really
yeah. And what's cool also is kind of going along in the ways in which we've combined the virtual with the live travel. We have actually quite a few people who we arranged virtual events for in the corporate realm. So they did like a corporate event, like for example, quite a few people did an Italy walking tour, a virtual Italy walking tour, who now that they're back to traveling, even as individuals, not with their companies, are coming back and saying, hey, we had like such a great time with Luca. Is there any way you can set us up, you know, myself and my partner and my family with a live tour with Luca? And kind of vice versa. We've had quite a few people that have gone, again, as Italy as an example. We had a family go to Italy, come back, you know, they want to share the experience with their loved ones, the rest of their family, their friends. And so they've asked to schedule a virtual tour, pretty much matching closely what they did live in Italy, but a virtual experience so that their family and friends can really be a part of that experience as well.
That's so awesome. It's so fun. And they just use like they're actually going out and walking around, aren't they? Like with just like a stick with their phone. That's so cool.
Yeah, exactly. It's awesome. And we have one of them. He was our favorite one because he was just amazing from the start, but he had the stabilizer. So it literally was like you're walking through Venice, and it was just amazing. It was just really cool to be able to have people, like we even had some people jump on and they're like, I just can't believe this is actually live and in Venice. And even though we sent them materials and said it's going to be live and it's going to be a live Italian guy walking around, they still were just shocked by just how real it was, which was really fun for us. It was really cool.
That I would be shocked to be like, oh my God, wait, this is real? That is so, even though we're in 2023 and we have great internet, but it's like, wow, I can't believe that's possible. It's so cool. That is really awesome. And how does that like work? I'm just randomly thinking this question, is how like time-wise, like if you're walking, like, was it earlier in the day or was it like a weekend? So how do you adjust the time changes or like time differences?
Sure. So, I mean, that's one thing definitely we had to take into consideration with all of our groups, all of our destinations. Another reason being some of our corporations we work with are global. So they're, you know, they have people based all over the world, and then you're working on different time zones. Typically, we'll offer them during the week. And usually, especially for the corporate groups, they kind of only want to arrange stuff during the work week as well. But generally, like for Europe-based events, it would be morning our time, Pacific time. For Asia, events in Asia, it would be evening our time, which would be morning for them. Then again, like with the time change and everything, like that kind of all played a factor. But yeah, so we kind of just, you know, played it on like a case-by-case basis, like where are you looking to travel? Where is everyone based? Kind of what time will work the best? You know, it's starting to sunset at this time in Italy, this time of the year, so we'd have to do it a little earlier. So yeah, it was kind of a case-by-case basis, but it was honestly just like a giant puzzle.
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah, it is like figuring it out. Because I mean, I could take a virtual tour around Italy or do wine tasting or Aperol any time of the day. So it doesn't really matter. But it is like another piece of the puzzle to figure out, like logistic wise.
We worked off a lot of international timesheets and world clocks. And I mean, our hours personally, because we always would host with the actual host in regards, so we'd make sure a lot of people was interactive, they had questions. So we always had, you know, the host that was in the country and then a travel virtually host as well. So if you ask for about our personal hours, I mean, I feel like we've hosted every hour of the night. I mean, I've hosted at 3 a.m., at 2 a.m. And so, but what's cool is also it depends. Like we also hosted some that were like in the dark not in the dark, but at night in Europe because it was Christmas and it was still like so fun. They got to see the street markets and the Christmas tree. So it just it all depends on what they're looking for, but we just made it work.
That's really cool. Oh, I love it. It's so cool. And on like that, what would you say? So is that what it's looking like, today? And what is it continuing to look like for the future of virtual travel experiences? Because I mean, again, how this was brought on to, that's the thing that during the pandemic, it did bring some things that were like, wow, this can continue to keep working, which is so cool. So what is it looking like for you now? And what do you think the future is of traveling virtually like this?
Sure. Yeah. So, I mean, a lot of our corporate clients have gone back to traveling. A lot of them still are not, whether it be reasons relating to the pandemic or just budget, or like you said, it's just so expensive now. Another big reason is a lot of teams are very remote because of the pandemic. So we know few of our corporate clients we've talked to this about is their companies are now like fully remote. And because of that, a lot of their team members have like moved cross country to be closer to family or, just for a new adventure. And so the virtual events are still very prevalent for all of those reasons. And especially just as like a means of bringing teams together for a fun experience, and especially a more low budget experience since they're not actually paying for the cost of travel. But yeah, so, and then again, as Danielle kind of mentioned, is we are doing a lot of those like hybrid experiences, even with corporations, like some will plan like an annual big trip for everybody, but then like 1 or 2 times a year, they'll do a virtual event to still get everybody together, but just not, on that level.
Mm-hmm. And to go on that, we even had one recently where we had a corporate offsite. So everyone went to one destination. They all went to Hawaii and they wanted to do an event that brought in their international team without flying them out. So it was all their domestic team was in Hawaii. We did an event in one of the meeting spaces at the hotel, but we were able to do it virtually. So we did a video with, our host from Africa, and then all the international people got to join that way. So, it's just a mix of different ways to do trips and things like that.
Yeah, that's really cool. And that's a good point too. Just bringing in, mixing virtual and people there and stuff too. That's really cool. And it's also just such a win-win for suppliers too. So have you made I'm sure your suppliers are like, this is great. They love this, like working them. How do you approach them? Do you just say, hey, we have this idea. Would you be into that? Or do they approach you about it?
So when we first started, I think, and Stephanie touched on this, a big thing that was important to us was also supporting our suppliers that we know weren't getting business, right? So one thing is we want to connect with our clients, but we really just also our heart was like heavy for suppliers, especially in other countries, that their salary or all of their funds were based on, tourism. And so essentially what we did is we reached out to people that we would normally send clients to and said, hey, look, is there any way you can do this? Like, this is what we're looking. This is what we've done before. Are you interested? Do you have any ideas? And we kind of would brainstorm. And a lot of them were like, this sounds great. Yeah. All I need to do is make sure I have like good Wi-Fi and a camera and a video and bring whatever skills or whatever thing. And we also were interested in like, what do you want to teach people? Like, what do you want to show about your culture? Like, what are ideas? So that's what we did. And it honestly was great. And that's how we kind of built our menu. If you see, is a lot of the times we reached out to a bunch of people at first, and just people that we loved working with before and we wanted to keep in touch with. And then also it came with people saying, hey, do you do anything in Peru? And we're very transparent and like, not yet, but let us see what we can do. And so we'll call a partner in Peru and be like, look, we've done this. Are you interested? We set up, of course, our own virtual event first to make sure their Wi-Fi is good, their video is good, and things like that. Be like, okay, great. Like, you can do a walking tour and a tile making class, and then we're able to offer it to our clients. So we tried to partner a lot with like also local villages and different people, especially in Africa with the wreath making and things like that. to just, support everyone. I think COVID was just a hard time, and it was just really important for us to just engage with as many people as we could and, bring like a flow of income that wasn't there during the pandemic.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Well, and that's actually one of my questions was just for, and you pretty much kind of answered a lot of it, is the like for travel advisors who are listening right now, if they could incorporate or find different ways to incorporate, virtual travel into their business, it can really expand sales and offerings, experiences. So like, what would they, if they are interested in doing that, like, and you've already kind of touched on a lot of it, just the logistics of it, like even something I didn't even think of, like, oh yeah, you should probably test out like before the Wi-Fi with them before, like, didn't even think about that. That's very important. But like, and then do you just have like, so you have a menu of things that you're like this, but do you usually just get like on a consultation call or just a call with them and they're like, all right, let's figure this out. Let's think of this.
Yeah, definitely. We always get on a call and just say, we want, just like any trip, like we want to create the experience that's best for your group and what you're looking for. So a lot of the times people reach out to us, we get on a call and say, okay, how many people do you want it to be interactive? Are you just looking to see a walking tour? Because we have so many different experiences. So it's more about what you're looking for. A lot of people like pair a walking tour with cooking class or like a cocktail making class. And I think it's just, do you want it to be interactive? And we have some pieces like with the wreath making, we work with this amazing woman in Zambia. We partner with a nonprofit. So a lot of the proceeds go and empower local women in the community there. And so, bringing that piece, that one's probably our most popular one, but it's really just trying to understand, like, what are you wanting to get out of this experience? Like, do you just want to see Italy and have that be a great beginning to your morning meeting? Or are you looking for gift boxes as like a thank you? Are you looking for, a culture shift in Zambia? Are you looking for art? Are you looking for, anything? And so then we're able to be like, okay, this would be perfect. And usually we'll put some options together, what we think would be best. And then they pick from there.
Yeah. That's really awesome. And do you just work with, do you base your pricing like for them with the supplier? Do you just kind of say like, okay, well, consider what you have to do? Is that kind of how you find your pricing too, when you're doing like consultation with people?
Yeah, so it does depend on the supplier. A lot of them will have different pricing structures. A lot of them charge per person. A lot of them have like a pricing tier based on the number of people. And so based on that, we do charge like a management fee. And another piece, I don't know if we touched too much on, is for every experience, we would provide the attendees the materials. So again, going back to the wine tasting, we would coordinate the wine being shipped directly to their house. If ever we did a cooking class, we would get them all the ingredients ahead of time. For the wreath making, our Zambian partners are really great in actually sending them the materials that they needed for the wreath making. They also did doormat making. They did a lot of different experiences for the holidays. And so that management fee was also part of the fee. And so, price per activity really varied. I would say the most cost effective were the ones that did not require materials, like the walking tours. Whereas depending on the experience beyond that, pricing really varied. But yes, we did kind of base pricing on what our suppliers were charging.
Yeah, which makes sense. And yeah, and that's cool that you had the management fee, because I was wondering about that, because the biggest part is really like the logistics side, which is probably not that simple, especially when you're getting materials from one place to another place but really cool. And if you were to give like a tip or two for advisors listening who are like, I want to start offering, a virtual travel experience, what would be your tips? Like, is there anything that you're like, this is so important that you should have, or you didn't know that you needed at the time?
Wow. It was a work in progress in the beginning, trying to figure everything out. I think definitely making sure before you promise anything virtual, making sure there's good Wi-Fi connection, or just like also, I think setting expectations. So for example, in Zambia, our partner has great Wi-Fi, but then all of a sudden there's off shedding one day, and then all the Wi-Fi and all the internet is turned off, because that just happens randomly in Africa for certain hours to like save energy. And like, what I say is, you're getting an authentic experience. Like, of course we can rebook, of course, like she'll be back on in 20 minutes and we figure it out and it's fine. But it's like, that's what you're going to get when you're working with partners. So I think just being honest and I think, I don't know. I think those are just little things that we learned, but we found that people just love it because it's just real. Like, this is what travel is. This is what would happen if you were traveling and you missed your plane or you missed something, is you figure it out. And I think we don't pretend to be perfect, of course. Like, we just, that stuff happens, or someone trips while they're doing a walking tour, it's just reality. So I think just, I don't know, just being authentic and honest. And I think definitely talking to suppliers beforehand, and letting them know, just like you would if you're sending clients, like, this is the type of group, this is what they're interested in, these are the things to talk about, these are things to not talk about, all of those things. So yeah. Stephanie, did you have any other ones?
I mean, I think that's a good one. And also just like, as travel advisors, as, designers of travel experiences, just kind of thinking outside the box and thinking about just unique experiences that can be brought to your client that, yeah.
Yeah.
Makes sense. No, it is true too. Like, if something goes wrong, you're like, it almost adds an element to your, like, see, you really are like traveling right now. Cause
totally.
it's so true.
Totally.
And I think what we've also had too is we've also partnered with other advisors that have been like, hey, we want to add this piece for our clients' trips, and can you help us with that? And so we've partnered with agents that way, because we've done it for so long, we have everything set up that we're like, yeah, for sure, like we can. Well, and then of course we're with Travel Virtually and we can help host and things like that. So we've partnered with other agents who wanted to add it as like add-ons, or wanted to bring travel to people who used to travel with them but like can't travel anymore, or getting older, things like that. So we've definitely worked with people like that as well.
That's awesome. So for everybody listening, it can find, we'll put your website in the show notes. But what is the website though? If you could say it.
It's just travelvirtually.com.
That's so great that you got that domain and everything. It's so perfect.
I know. We were surprised that we got it too. I mean, we were just like, let's try it. And it was like travelvirtually.com. Like, this is perfect.
Right? It's available. Get it. That's so cool. Because it's
immediately
the thing. Yeah. I mean, I think it's going to keep growing. It makes so much sense. Just as like what you're saying, just as even add-ons, but you have like the corporate side, that's always going to be a thing. But even just like adding more experience, or like how you mentioned too, Danielle, about how, you're planning this trip with this family and there's people who just were a little uncertain. So you're like, how about we do this? Let's give you a little taste of it. It's so cool. I love that. And what would you say? So final question for you both is, what would you say is your favorite experience that you've done?
Well, I think probably, since I've mentioned it so many times, but my favorite for sure is our wreath making activity with Zambezi Joy Society in Zambia. I mean, these women, there's two women that founded this during COVID. They also both work, one of them owns and one of them manages a luxury lodge in Zambia. So I've sent clients there. Tina Ponte and Aggie Banda are the founders of Zambezi Joy Society, and they created it in order to just spread cheer during a dark time during COVID. So they create these tablecloths and different things with this bright Chitange fabric. I actually have this right here. So this is our
cool
that we make. So with this, people, I would say also is our most popular, because we would send, the materials and the ring, and it's something that people do with their hands, but also Aggie is our host and she's just the brightest light. And a lot of it was just conversation, just about what's life like in Zambia? Like, how is it like being a woman as a manager there? Like, what foods do you eat? And it was just such an authentic and real conversation between people. And Aggie just does an amazing job, and it by far became our most popular, I think, because of the authenticity of it. Also, a lot of the funds support women in the area, so it just brings that aspect together of just giving and sharing. And so and I've listened to Aggie do this so many times, and every time I'm just so interested. And everyone has so many questions, and she's open. She goes, I'll answer anything. Like, so I think that's been really, really great, and definitely by far my favorite one.
That's cool.
Definitely. And I have to say that is also one of my favorite experiences as well. Just like, so like enlightening, honestly. Every time we would host an event with Aggie, I mean, we would just like leave just in the best mood. And I just know everyone felt the same way. Another one I want to mention that I really enjoyed are our Japan experiences. So we have a partner in Japan that does quite a bit of different offerings, from walking tours to sushi making classes, as well as a tea ceremony, a traditional tea ceremony, which I as an advisor, have never been to Japan. So, you know, this is really just a taste, I think, into the culture and something I haven't yet experienced in real life. So just being able to like experience an authentic tea ceremony, and then also just be involved with a live sushi making class from like literally the home kitchen of a chef in Japan. It was just really incredible.
That is so cool. That's really awesome. I just can't even like that's crazy how small the world can get really quick, or like how it can feel like, wait, I'm in the kitchen of this private chef. Like, wow. Yeah. That's so cool.
That's awesome. We need to get you on an event, Stephanie.
I know. I'm telling you, I need to tell the Travify team, because we have virtual stuff going on. So I'm like, I have the best idea. I'm like, yes, it's so awesome. And thank you so much again for sharing all that. It's so cool. And again, I'll put the website, travelvirtually.com, in our show notes, so everybody can go find that there. But just want to say again, thanks everyone for tuning into this episode of the Lounge with Travify Academy. And of course, thank you to our special guests, Stephanie and Danielle, for joining us here today. And be sure to subscribe to our podcast or subscribe to our YouTube channel for all of the latest episodes. And we hope you enjoyed our conversation today and join us again. But for now, stay safe, and we'll catch you on the next flight or virtual event. Maybe I had to add that in this time.